Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with the rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here, and I'm swinging by the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 17, and we're heading on over to Marvel. I am your host, TFU and Mike. Joining me is JT from Saskatoon. Hello.
And how are you today?
I don't know. I'm alright, I guess.
I know we spoke off air, that editorial snafu you picked up, but you can't let that get you down, Mike.
No, it's not that. We'll talk. Well, we might as well talk about it here. I always want to say friggin' episode. Issue 8 and issue 9 of the Superior Spider-Man, they have an editorial snafu where issue 8 is supposed to say, which it does, Troubled Mind Part 2, proof positive. Okay?
Yeah.
Issue 9, which is the Brain issue, says... Troubled Mind, Part 2, Gray Matters. It's supposed to say Part 3.
Yeah.
It doesn't really be... honestly, I went back, because we do the Superior Spider-Man stuff every... When was the last time we did it? Episode 6 was issues 5 through 7. Yeah. Episode 6 of the Pull Bag was... So basically, 11 episodes ago of the podcast. So pretty much almost 11... because we have to wait... because we get 2 issues a month. So we still have to wait 2 months... before we can record the next episode of the show featuring this title, because we want to talk about 4 issues. And the thing is that when I went back today before recording this, I started reading issue 8. And I was like, oh, I remember this, and I just started flipping through it just looking for cool art. Same thing with issue 9. Issue 9 I did read again. But again, I remembered everything that I had already, I had retained the knowledge of what happens in issue 9. And issue 10, same thing. Issue 11 just, came out a little while ago, and I remember when it came out, I was like, okay, well, that's it. That's the 4th issue. JT and I will record the show soon. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to read this until I can go back and reread the other 3 to catch up.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what we're going to do with Superior Spider-Man. We may stay on the path that we're on. We may eventually go into trades with it. I don't know. I know as of this recording, because I did see it in the comic shop, the first trade paperback is out for Superior, which is the first 5 issues, which we've already talked about those. So it would be a longer wait for us to get to issues 12 through 15 or whatever it is. I don't know. It's just... Sometimes I wish comics would come weekly. Honestly.
Well, it's like I mentioned off air, at least Invincible Iron Man was coming out. It's the first few issues seemed to come out every week.
Yeah.
And, until either they got their stride or Greg Land was just working overtime to get the art out and that, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I just... right now, at this point, I do plan on getting into more Marvel stuff. I've had people suggest stuff to me and everything else, and we'll get to that in the future on the Pull Bag. But as far as, a constant ongoing... Superior is all I can handle, because I am a DC guy, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to apologize for that, but that's just what I am. And
Really? You're a DC guy? I never picked up on that.
Fuck you. And it's one of those things where I'm reading so much from DC, from now IDW with the whole, I'm into all the Transformers stuff and all that, and it's like Marvel just... I think the Marvel stuff, for those fans who are listening to this that are Marvel fans, where that's going to come into play is when we eventually get to do character spotlight months down the line in the pull bag. I have plans, and I've talked with Steve Megatron about this, to do this. I have plans to do character months, so we'll take Wolverine, and we'll do 4 weeks, 4 episodes, an entire month of Wolverine stuff. Or we'll take Punisher, and we'll do a Punisher month, and the Punisher body count guys can come on and talk about that kind of stuff. But and the same thing with DC and IDW and all that stuff, and Turtles and whatever else. We'll do specific month themes for the pull bag in the future, and it's just. I don't know. Honestly, these 4 issues, I know we're going to get in depth with each one of them, but going back and looking at these again, I don't know. I've said the entire time that I love the fact that they've done something so dramatic that Ock is Spider-Man, but this arc, I don't know if it's the weirdest thing, because issue 7, which we talked about back in episode 6 of the show, was part 1 of Trouble Mind. So I don't know if it was the fact that we broke it up that way, where it's like, hey, part 1, cliffhanger episode, and now we're coming to part 2. I don't know if it's that or what the deal is, but honestly, these 4 issues, I've pretty much lost interest. I hate to say it.
It's these specifically the Troubled Mind storyline, and we'll get into it when we talk specifically about issue 9.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people liking the title.
Yeah, I like it. I think the thing is, and one of the reasons why we wait here in the pull bag for all, like, specifically to the Bat books, why Steve and I wait for Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, Detective, Batman and Robin, or whatever they're calling that book this week. One of the reasons why we wait is so we can talk about them all at once. Same thing here with Spider-Man. One of the reasons why JT and I wait is so we can talk about... I don't know how people get through a single issue for one podcast. Like, to me, talking about a single issue would be all of 15, 20 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm not going to release a 15-minute podcast on one issue. Like, there are some people out there that, there are some podcasts, specifically the Underbase. They do Transformers comics, and they're great. They're wonderful. I absolutely love them. I have no idea how they can get an hour and a half out of one issue.
It depends on how many people are talking about it and all that.
No. I know and I understand that, but I don't know. So let's go ahead and get into it. After this, we're going to talk about issue 8.
We SHIELD agents are here to defend the home front, and mister, that's just where this super soldier wants to be.
All right, issue 8. We start with a prologue. Again.
Well, the one thing I want to mention before we get into the story is the cover on issue 8.
Yeah, the cover.
This is probably the most generic cover, the most obvious cover that they've done so far in the series.
Yeah.
Just Cardiac, or Carbonite, as Mike likes to call him. He's sitting there with, like, his... Well, I mean, the guy was created in the 90s, so it's really... He's there in his, like, 90s... his very 90s costume. He's got Spider-Man. He's, like, either getting him the mother of all nipple twisters, or Spidey wore an extra-large costume that day, because... I've never worn spandex. I know some of my friends who cosplay here in Saskatoon. Spandex should not stretch like that. It's like he's wearing a friggin' balloon. So, and yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I remember when I picked this up from the comic shop, I was like, hey, look, it's Transformers animated Ratchet mixed in with War Machine. What the fuck is going on here? 'Cause
I know, right?
Well, the reason why I say that is because if anyone has watched Transformers Animated, Ratchet in that show has the blue... Well, it's red on him.
The heart monitor...
The heart monitor thing on his arm.
Yeah.
And then the face mask... It's an Iron Man faceplate. It is. It's an Iron Man /War Machine faceplate.
Pretty much.
It just is. And then the thing sticking out of his back looks it doesn't look like a Gatling gun, but it reminds me of the
No,
War Machine design with the Gatling gun, and I'm like, what the fuck is War
very much
Machine?
a War Machine look. Yeah,
Yeah, what the fuck is War Machine doing to Spider-Man?
yeah. No, but yeah, like you said, we start with a prologue of sorts, and it goes the heart clinic, which is basically cardiac in his identity of oh crap. Well, in his secret, his Elias Wortham was his secret ID. He's basically taken over the heart clinic, which was kind of a front for this Spider-Man villain named Mr. Negative that Slott had created, which is basically this Martin Liu, who's like this Asian businessman who's literally got this Jekyll and Hyde thing. When he turns into Mr. Negative, or Mr. Negative takes over, he turns, like, his hair turns white, his skin turns black. He literally becomes a photo negative, and they haven't used that guy at all lately. But yeah, he's got like a secret hospital. And if any other hospital found out about this place, they would litigate the hell out of them. It was like, how dare you provide free health care? They must pay insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we start out with that, and then we get the splash pages of story so far.
Which is something that I kind of like that Marvel's kind of brought back. I mean, they did stuff like this in the 90s, kind of pre or post Heroes Reborn, which is basically for people just coming onto the title, or, it's kind of like a previously on.
Yeah, you can't... Reading this issue, I felt like I was watching an episode of a cartoon. The reason why I say that is because, as I mentioned before, this first page is basically a prologue type of page.
A little bit of a teaser.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's basically like if you take Justice League Unlimited, any episode of Justice League Unlimited, they have that first 10 minutes before the intro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can do that with any current cartoon that does that, and that's what I thought of. And I do like, I've said this before in the other Spider-Man episodes we've done here in the pullback. I do like the story. They don't call it the story so far. That's something IDW does with the Transformer stuff, but they basically say the story so far, and I like that because it does. Like, I didn't go back and read issue 7, which was part 1 of the problem. I didn't go back and read it, so I like getting the story so far. And then the next page is Battle with the Avengers. Why do I have Superhero Squad Captain America's voice in my head? Spider-Man, I'm giving you an order, mister. I swear, it's just exactly what Superhero Squad version of Cap would say. I cannot take Cap seriously saying stuff like that, looking like the serious Cap and something like that coming out of it. Just that to me is very cartoony. That's not.
Well, it is a comic book. I just love Spidey's response. His Cap is, "You will stand down and submit to our test." Never.
Yeah.
And then you got Ghost Spidey. You got Peter and Otto. Like, Otto's just like, never, and Peter's like, not the face, not the face.
Yeah.
And then Otto, because he's starting to hear Peter, he's like, not the face, who said that? He's distracted now, and all of a sudden, shield to the face.
Yeah.
And I love the sound effect. It's like, splang.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
If this was a cartoon, you'd see Spidey kind of like ricocheting back and forth like he got hit by a gong, and, it's... The Avengers do all these tests to him.
God. Yeah, they do all these tests to him on the next couple of pages, and I have to say this. Going back and looking through this, I actually counted how many pages are actual ads, and this is one of the reasons why in the intro of this podcast episode I suggested we start doing these in trades, because I understand why they need to do it this way. Because they need to make money, they need to tell you, hey, this is coming up, this is coming. I hate ads in single issues. I hate them when they're, like, IDW puts their solicits at the end of the story.
Yeah, like, that's why, like, the last 6 or 8 pages are all, like, ads and that.
But I don't mind that because I can read through the story without, like, Oh my God! Don't even get me started on. We'll talk about this in a couple weeks. Don't even get me started on Zero Year. But I just I don't need an ad about Marvel swim trunks for boys. I really don't need that at all.
Yeah.
But anyway,
No, I
and
know what you mean.
yeah, look at this. This is fucking stupid. Okay, you got the big splash page with the battle between Spider-Man and the Avengers. You've got the fucking ad with the boys' swim trunks. You've got the next page where it's what's her name,
Carly Cooper.
Carly Cooper. The very next fucking page is another fucking ad. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
That's just, oh my God. Like, okay, I don't mind every couple of pages, and I'm actually going to go ahead and go through, and I'm actually going to look at Zero Year for Batman, and I want to see how, I want to compare DC versus Marvel with the ads, because I want to see, I know DC does full, okay, I don't count the ad that's on the back front of the back of the front cover, obviously, because that's, you expect that. Yeah, DC, it's basically, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get 7 pages before a full 2-page spread out ad of Trinity War. So you get 7 pages of story in the very beginning of Batman number 21, and then the next, you get maybe 3 or 4 more pages. The next full page splash ad is Superman Unchained. Whereas in this issue, in issue 8 of Superior, you get one splash page of the battle with him and the Avengers, an ad, another story page, and then an ad. Oh my God, that's
Maybe we should just concentrate on the story, Mike.
I know, but it's like, how can you concentrate on the story when you have? I mean, that's like saying, a cartoon has a commercial every 10 minutes, or every 5 minutes instead of every, whatever. Anyway, so the whole thing with the story is, we get the thing with Carly, and who is she talking to?
Well, that's revealed in issue 9, and we'll get to that. But clearly she's very carefully proceeding in her investigation because she knows this ain't Spidey. And she's about the only person in the Marvel Universe, outside of maybe Mary Jane Watson, that suspects that something's a little hinky with her web crawler. And who she brings in on this, and the kind of the element of the investigation that you see in the issue 9, we'll definitely talk about that. But yeah, I mean, she's getting some help to look into Spidey, and then you go to the next page, you see Otto wakes up on, an operating table, more or less.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there, and you go, Peter's like, oh boy, here it comes, and this is a complete violation, and Black Widow's just, shut up.
Yeah.
And his art tests conclusively prove, with a mere error of margin, blah, 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 that you, Spider-Man, are not a Skrull. I was like, when I read that, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Yes. Exactly. If you can hear that, folks, that is Mike's head repeatedly making contact with the desk. And Peter Parker, Peter had the same reaction. He was like, that's it? You're not being controlled by Space Phantom. You're not being controlled by the Puppet Master, the Purple Man, the Controller. And then Otto's like, I could have told you that.
This is exactly why, and don't get me, this is exactly why I don't take Captain America seriously. Like, Captain America, okay, I have never read a lot of the Captain America comics. I don't think I've ever read a Captain America comic. I remember him from the 94 Spider-Man cartoon series, and I know him from the current, now canceled, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. But where I really love Cap is when he's being comedic in Superhero Squad show, as I mentioned earlier. Dan Slott's writing for Captain America, the lines that he gives him, they're comedic. Like, to me,
they're gold is what they are.
They're what?
They're gold, like comedic gold.
Yeah, and it doesn't fit the design of the artists. it really doesn't. What's like, I expect a Mighty Mug looking Captain America or something to say that line. Like, I don't expect this design of Captain America to say that, and I just can't take him seriously.
Well, for me, and at least longtime readers of, say, the Avengers for like the last
right.
more or less almost 10 years, like basically Brian Michael Bendis' run where Spider-Man became a new Avenger. He's been an Avenger for at least a couple years' time now, working with Wolverine, Black Widow, and everybody. I can't believe that the Avengers are so friggin' dense that they don't, like, they're like, he literally goes from joking superhero to almost bloodthirsty vigilante. And even Wolverine isn't like, whoa, just like, pull it back, Spidey. And that's why I love Peter's reaction. He's like, that's it? I imagine there's a string of profanities that even we could not hear being uttered within Otto's head at this moment, but,
yeah,
and then Otto's like, well, I'm the only one smart enough to see there is an anomaly within my brain scan. And, and I love the look, and this is just me being a guy, and I'm a slave to my DNA. That scene where Black Widow's reaching low over the table, handing this thing, and you can see Spider-Man's eyes are only looking at two things. I mean, he's paying attention. It's Black friggin' Widow. And then, and of course, Cap, he's not completely off the hook because the next page, Cap is like, you're on probation. And what does that mean exactly? We're watching you. Step out of line and you're fired. And again, like you said, that line coming out of Cap, now that you've mentioned it, I'm only going to hear stuff like that in the Superhero Squad Cap voice.
I'm telling you, it's comedy. It's not meant to be serious, and it's not.
Well, this you can take it as comedy, but I mean, it's meant to be serious. That's the thing. Well, it's Captain Frickin' America, so.
Well, and just as a side, as another tangent, as I said before, Cap to me is that comedic hero at this point with Superhero Squad. Same thing with Thor. I cannot relate to Thor whatsoever at all, and thus Verily is basically Superhero Squad. Like, him talking like that is what I like about Thor. Everything else, like Thor to me, like, I couldn't stand the first Thor movie. I probably will not see Dark World. I just don't like him on his. I don't mind him with the Avengers. I loved him in Avengers. It was great. It was awesome. Give me more of that. As a hero on his own, I don't give a shit about Thor. Yeah. And the same thing with Cap. I don't like. I love the Captain America 2009 movie. Was it 2009? Whatever. Captain America: First Avenger. I love that. I thought that was great. But in comics, I keep seeing all these other things that have nothing to do with what the story is. But yeah, you get Spidey and Black Widow on the next page after the fabric ad.
Okay, so you see on the next page how Marvel is moving elements from their cinematic universe into, the comics, where it's a line that is so taken from the Avengers movie. You have Red in your ledger, in which I understand that part of Black Widow's character, but again, that is one of the stupidest things they could have said in the Avengers movie. And it makes sense to mention it here because, on the previous page, she's talking to Spidey about how he took out Massacre and how he's been so violent lately. And he's just literally, Otto's sitting there, he's almost head in hand and he's just doodling, but it's really Peter trying to send a message to Widow. And I think if anyone picks up on this, the whole chicanery of Otto being Spider-Man, it's going to be Widow eventually, where you see Peter has written what is supposed to be an octopus in Spidey's head. And she's like, for someone called Spider-Man, he sure draws a lousy spider. And she's going to yell out, like, Basha Moy even louder when she realizes, what the deal is. Because, down the road, it's all going to fall apart for Otto. And then you see him, he goes to Horizon, and the downfall of Peter Parker at Horizon is assured at this point. The fact that Peter has, like, this steady job at a scientific think tank where he can, basically build Spidey gear and use it in the field and then turn it into, like, consumer products and make more money, it's one of the best things to happen to Peter Parker in years, and Otto is so completely going to fuck this up.
Yeah.
You know, and he goes there and he starts analyzing this data that, you know, the Avengers took from his scan, and that's when, you know, we finally get back to Cardiac, because this helmet that he stole, you know, Otto needs to scan his brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see, they never mentioned this really before, but then you see that when this alarm goes off and all the doctors there are worried about the cops, they're shutting us down, we're going to lose our licenses. And one guy's like, licenses? Hell, we're going to jail.
I know, yeah.
And then, you know, Dr. Wortham runs off and suits up his Cardiac, and, you know, he sees a spider tracer, and Spidey pops in, and they have probably the stupidest thing that Otto has ever uttered in a battle in this comics is, well, then, the die is cast. Like, who talks like that? Even Norman Osborn has never said something that archaic.
The first thing I thought of when I saw that, die-cast construction. It's a lost art.
Yeah. I know, right? But yeah, so they fight, or battle takes them into, like, the hospital area. Mm-hmm. And Cardiac, well, he's still wrecking shit. He's like trying to get Spidey out of there. You know, mm-hmm. This is a hospital, says the man firing the energy staff.
Yeah.
And then Otto finally is like, oh, wait a tick. And he sees like the little girl with like the brain tumor or whatever wearing his scanner helmet, and you know, it goes from there, and Peter's like, oh, you're just gonna take that off the girl's head, aren't you? And he's like, no, and Otto's really trying that, and then finally Cardiac gets to him. He's like, look, I'm trying to save lives with this. And then he mentions specifically he's trying to save a life that Octavius himself placed in jeopardy. And it's basically, this girl has got swollen brain damage due to the whole global warming shield that Otto was using to, like, basically hold the world hostage.
Yeah,
and cause like a car accident.
Yeah, it was back in Amazing Ends of the Earth. Yeah.
And then Otto's like, yeah, that child, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, I can fix this.
What I love about that one page that we were just talking about, where he's like, what? Explain. The very next page. I love the image of regular Spidey and like Ghost Spidey as like two halves of one face. I love how that like looks. That art is just amazing, having a conversation with yourself.
Yeah, and then that's also kind of a shout out to back how they used to do, like when his spider sense would go off and half his face would have the Spidey mask and all that. And then he goes in and is like, he's okay, I can fix this. I've dedicated my life to studying his technology. Blah, blah, blah. And the one nurse is like, you can work this thing? And he's like, like a virtuoso. And he's like, I'm going to repair the damage and perform the surgery myself. And I love, this is probably one of the kindest things. Like, Otto Octavius is an arrogant son of a bitch. This cannot be argued. But it is one of the nicest things he's done as Spidey, where the girl is like, Spider-Man, you know how to use the magic helmet? And he's like, I'm the magician who made it. And he is just like, wow, that almost completely out of character for Otto.
Yeah.
And then you see definitely shades of like maybe Peter might be wrong sort of thing, because Otto's going to do the surgery and his hand's shaking because Peter's trying to... He doesn't believe that Otto can be selfless like this.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Otto's like, I can do this. And he's like, yes, it's time to start balancing my books. And that's one of the things I love about this issue specifically, is you see these glimpses that maybe Otto, while he is an arrogant SOB, he is trying to do the right thing. And
I just can't take it seriously.
Well,
no. What he's doing, I take seriously, but how he's doing it and what he's wearing, Spider-Man in a mock and a doctor's, it would be so different if he had said, excuse me one moment, took the mask off, and just had, you know...
Peter Parker.
Had the hat cover a little bit more of his forehead, and obviously the mouthpiece covers his mouth. It just... I I saw this and I'm like, oh my god, it's Spidey oh god, what do they call them? Christ, Scrubs. Spidey and Scrubs, and I was like, that just is too.
I know.
Yes, I agree. What he's doing is very serious, and it's stating to his character that he can sometimes not be an uncaring SOB, and that's great. But this issue to me is more comedy than it is serious. It just is.
I did kind of snicker a little bit in the next page where he goes in to see the girl, the life he just saved, and she gives him her little pink penguin. He's like, I couldn't, and the nurse is like, or cardiac's like, we already found a replacement. You see her snuggling up to little, chibi Spider-Man stuff thing, which I thought was really kind of cute. That Spider-Man's just sitting there. He's like, well, dang. And you go to the next page after that where Doc's taking the helmet or Otto's taking the helmet. He's, scanning his brain, and you see he's got the little pink penguin on his desk there, and he's like, and again, he did such a nice thing, but then he just goes right back to being an asshole where I finally found it, haven't I? The greatness I was born for. It's like, oh, you arrogant SOB. Yeah. And then Peter's there nattering at him, and then now that Otto scanned his brain, he actually has a conversation with himself, basically. Yeah. Then, it's like, I do know, I found you, you're the anomaly, and he talks to the living brain. He's like, ready my equipment. I'm going to perform a Parkerectomy, which just sounds so completely wrong.
Yes, it does. And, we have, to be continued. And what I've noticed with Superior over these 4 issues is how they spotlight the next issues at the end of the book. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like with DC, specifically, Batman number 20, the last page before you get to the backup story, the last page of the Clayface story in Batman number 20 is 0 year begins, and it ends on Bruce and Alfred in the cave. Where this, instead of having the next, as far as what's coming next on that page of Otto performing a Parkerectomy, you have the next page where it actually lists different issues, coming up for Marvel. Question: Scarlet Spider number 16. That's basically the same cover as Superior number 1, except it's a black and red suited Spidey.
Yeah, that's Scarlet Spider is the Kane, who is like this clone that the Jackal created of Spider-Man back in the day, who was a part of the Spider Island crossover. And at the end of it, he used to have this messed up face, and he got better. And then Spidey, they teamed up in the end of that storyline to take out the Queen, who was kind of the main villain of the piece. And while they were fighting, Spidey gave him his Tron costume from earlier in Dan Slott's run writing the comic, which is basically a sound-proof costume. It makes Spider-Man completely silent. It's a stealth suit, basically.
Yeah, it's a stealth suit.
So, and it can also change its appearance. It can go through different kind of holographic settings. And Kane went off and became a hero in Houston, Texas, and he's got this red and black motif.
So it's basically 1999 all over again, where Spider-Man went unlimited.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's that kind of suit.
Yeah, it's not quite nanotech, but yeah, it's the souped up Spider
similar,
suit.
Yeah.
Which is one of the elements that Dan Slott, when Peter started working at Horizon Labs, is he's got some specialized bat suits, and when they started doing that, I kind of had a brief flash of
suits, not bat suits.
Well, no, see, I meant that because seeing that reminded me of how the Batman TAS toys, how Batman had all these specialty suits that never showed up.
Yeah.
But I mean, we move on to issue 9. I love the cover.
Well, wait, let's hear another Spidey clip, then we'll move on to issue 9.
It's not nice to rob jewelry stores in Mr. Spider-Man's neighborhood. Can you say, I'm going to jail?
Alright, so we move into issue 9, and the cover you love is the main cover, correct?
Yeah, it's, if I'm not... done by Marcos Martin, who's been one of the more popular Spidey artists in the last couple of years with the with everything. And I just love that it's like, hey, ladies, check out my cerebellum.
Yeah, and his cerebellum spells out the superior Spider-Man, which
Yeah.
I did not realize that at first.
Yeah, I mean, also one of the more icky covers that I've seen in recent years, guy, because it's this exposed brain, but you
Yeah.
see the looming Ock at the top, looming over Peter, who's stuck in the
Peter.
brain down at the bottom there,
Yeah.
and you got the recap of everything that's happened to now. With Troubled Mind should be Troubled Mind Part 3, not Part 2.
Yeah. Well, I looked on Marvel.com to see if there was a variant for this, and there is. And honestly, even though I enjoy the brain cover, I like the design on the variant a lot more. It's so cool. It's basically Otto inside Spidey's. It's basically him sitting on. It's almost like he's sitting on a ledge.
Okay.
And the shadow is his arms. It's very, very, very cool. It's very, very interesting for a cover.
Yeah.
But I do like the brain cover as well. Obviously that's the cover I got. Obviously. So
Yeah, I didn't actually see the variant. I mean, I appreciate the link and all. I didn't see the variant at my store. I might have missed it.
Yeah, there's only so many times. Like for me, Superior is one of those ones that's in my pull list. So whatever they, like I mentioned way back in episode 2 of the podcast, there was only one time that I absolutely wanted a variant, and they did not. They had it for $35, and obviously I wasn't going to pay $35. But if a variant's there and I like it better, cool. If it's not, I'm not gonna seek it out. Whatever the cover is gonna be is, that's fine for me. I don't particularly. It doesn't particularly matter to me. But yeah, no. So the story so far, basically recaps what has happened with the Parkerectomy.
Yeah. And then you go into the lab and you see the golden Octobot that Peter tried to use to reverse the whole thing, and basically it's got a set of Peter Parker. It's got a copy of Peter Parker in it, and Otto deletes that and sets him in this chair, and you kind of see it when you look at the helmet in that behind shot when he's in front of all these screens, and then when he's sitting in the chair. The helmet has gone from looking like a helmet with Humberto Ramos's art, and then the regular artist Ryan Stegman's back, and it looks like this fat ass spider sitting on his dome.
Oh, I know it. Yeah.
And then he's sitting there and he's getting ready to get rid of Peter Parker once and for all. And then Peter takes control of the right hand, tries to choke Ock, and this is by far one of my favorite things that Otto has said in this comic to date. He's like, "Robot, restrain this insubordinate appendage." And it's like, click, where right arm secured.
Yeah.
And he goes in, basically goes Tron on, and you see Peter with the looming face of Otto in the skies, and, commencing mind wipe. Yes, a complete purge of all things pertaining to Peter Benjamin Parker. And he's deleting Peter for a second time, and he goes in and, inside his head, he becomes Dr. Octopus again.
Yeah.
With the stupid goggles and the green and orange suit. And I love the one scene where he's like, "You made a big mistake coming here, Doc, because this is my world, my rules." And he brings out, all his loved ones, basically every supporting cast member ever. And they all start dogpiling on Otto. And, it's...
It's a damn good issue.
I love the page where you see them all piling on, specifically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that where Flash is like, "Come on, gang, for Beauty Parker, we can do this." And Jonah, of course, in typical J. Jonah fashion, "What do you mean, we? I'll manhandle this multi-armed menace all by myself."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then...
I love the way that the designs are done. You mentioned about the pile-on. And what do you mean we? I love that page. That page in itself, if you spread that out a little more, could almost be a full page splash
Yeah,
instead of just on one page. But I love what they did with how they broke it up on the next page and all the different little things. I love the way that I believe it's Stegman.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. I love the way that the layouts are happening with this whole battle, between Spider-Man. I think that's just great. Gratuitous Iron Man 3 ad, notwithstanding. And then we get the Goblin.
Yeah, well, it's basically Spidey's Rogues Galleries. And I love how they're... all the villains, it's basically their first appearances. Like, the Scorpion has just got basically, like, he doesn't have a stinger. He's got, like, just the skin suit. Mysterio's got his classic look. The Lizard is, in the lab coat and all that. I almost expected when Goblin, I almost expected him to show up in the mechanical broomstick that he used to fly on back in the day. Because that in his first few appearances...
this is not Power Rangers Mystic Force, JT.
No, that's the Goblin's original mode of transportation, as drawn by the great Steve Ditko back in the day. He originally flew in a rocket-powered broomstick. So if anything, Power Rangers ripped off Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, behold, all your fears brought to life. And they go to town, like, they kill Uncle Ben and Captain Stacy, and they're not just killing them, they're wiping out his memories, because you see in the next page, Peter, he can't remember Captain Stacy anymore, and then he knows he has an uncle, but he can't remember his uncle's name. And that's basically what happens. And then he's like, I'm more than... The next page is kind of gross, but kind of cool, where he's like, I'm more than just Peter Parker. I'm also the Amazing Spider-Man. And he rips his face off, and he sees Spidey underneath. And just like flesh mask, rip.
Yeah, that
was a little like, okay, I'm going to put you down for a second. Just take a breather. And then he goes... he's Spider-Man, so it's Spider-Man versus Doc Ock, and Spidey's like, let's go, one more round, Rocky 5, and...
Why does that face rip remind me of the Joker?
I was thinking more of, like, The Shadow, where Alec Baldwin rips his face off in that one scene, but, But yeah, so they fight, and Otto's kind of getting his ass kicked, and... Peter starts basically monologuing while he's kicking his ass. So, like, what's the responsible thing to do, What would a hero do? And all of a sudden, Ock gets his second wind. And you see him, he's like, the world needs a superior Spider-Man, and that would be me. And we get the second face rip of the issue. And he's like, come on.
Oh, why? Oh, I so didn't, like... Oh, man. I so didn't... When I first read this, when it first came out, I so did not even know, like...
What did you not see?
I saw the suits. I saw the faces of the Spider-Men, but I never really realized they were ripping their face. Oh my god.
Yeah, so now it goes from Ock versus Spider-Man to Superior versus Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And Ock brings up this argument. He's like, yes, the better Spider-Man, this worthier one. Like, who deserves it more? And, and then Peter's like, they go at it. But, it's like Peter has the argument. He's like, why would they beat you after you beat the hell of all of my enemies? Like, Peter brings up the whole idea of, you've been too violent. And then Ock brings it back, and he starts like, why would you not take out the Vulture? And what about Massacre? You let him live. And then he returns and he kills not only all those people, but Dr. Kafka, who's a friend of Spider-Man. He basically, like, he's showing Peter up, like, he's like, Peter does what Peter does as Spider-Man. And it's like, he challenges him. He's like, why didn't you do more? Why do you just, put them away and walk away, like, not make sure that they're taken care of? And, it's, and then the thing that really drives it home is Ock is like, why did you try and stop me from saving the girl's life in issue 8?
Mm-hmm.
And, it's basically power and responsibility. Like, Otto, it's to confuse Peter and give him that chink in the armor to take him out. proves that maybe Otto might be a superior Spider-Man. I don't think he's necessarily a better man, but it proves that, he's better at being Spider-Man than Peter was, because Peter, well, honestly, wasn't trying as hard as he could. But again, it's living up to potential and all that, but this is, kind of a thing. Like, everyone's got tons of potential in their life. Just because they're not living up to it doesn't mean that they're a bad person, which is, but it's basically Otto's tactic to confuse Peter so he can complete the mind wipe. And, it's kind of almost tragic, epic, sort of how the world, New York, in this mindscape is crumbling down, and Peter's like, I'm Spider-Man. I'm Peter Parker, Palmer, I don't know. And it's just kind of sad how at the last moment before the lights go out that he can't even remember his own name. And then you see Doc, I'm free.
Yeah, I'm free.
And I love at the end of the issue how Marvel's doing this with a lot of their comics, like where they're kind of grouping certain titles under one hero. So you see kind of the Spider-Verse. Here, you got the Avenging Spider-Man coming up with this storyline with the Chameleon, which I'll mention probably at the end of the episode just quickly. You got Daredevil, who's always been more loosely associated with Spider-Man than any other hero. You got, Scarlet Spider, Venom, Morbius the Living Vampire's got his own title again. Yeah. And you see the preview of the next cover in issue 10, which we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah, we're going to get to that right after this.
But Spider-Man is still at large.
Man, I really wish he would shut up.
And I don't know how he was involved in the attempt on my life, but I won't rest until...
Whoa, where'd he go?
So we come to issue number 10 of the Superior Spider-Man. Now, my question is, okay, Marvel and DC, they don't often do variants for every single issue, for every single title. I sometimes like that, and I sometimes don't. I think I'm really spoiled when I've started reading the Transformers stuff from IDW, because every Transformers book, More Than Meets the Eye, Robots in Disguise, Beast Hunters, they all have cover A, which is the main cover, and then they either have cover B or cover RI, which is retail incentive, or with Transformers Prime Beast Hunter specifically. At least I got an answer from IDW a couple weeks ago. For the first 4 issues, they're going to have sub-covers. So if you have that series in your pull list, you'll get a subscription-based cover. And the first 2 were... First one was Starscream from the show. The second one was RC from the show. I don't know. My point here is that, like, I even looked to see if there was a variant for issue 10. There isn't. At least Marvel doesn't list it on their website. And I'm okay with it. It's kind of like, hey, why are you building up Shia LaBeouf's character development in Transformers 1 and then taking it away in Revenge of the Fallen? To me, with covers, like if you're going to do variants, do them for more than just one issue.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It's strange to me how the big 2, Marvel and DC, decide to do their variants.
Yeah. I mean, the whole nowadays. I mean, certain companies, certain comics have gotten back to. Some have been doing like the dye, like the chromium, the shiny covers. Like Age of Ultron #1 had some of those, and nowadays variants usually just come in for like the reprints. Because I mean, some issues of Spider-Man, Avengers, they've gone like 4 or 5 reprints, and so they either give them like a black and white cover, or a sketch cover or something like that. Yeah. And it's a trend. It happens. The one thing, I mean, talking about covers, like the cover for this issue, it's very plain. Yeah. But it's I like it. Like it's got this very plain, but it's kind of omen of ill portent, shall we say, because you see Spidey reaching, he's like kind of ooga booga reaching out to you with like the claws out,
Somebody needs to get that guy some nail clippers.
So Spider-Man, Freddy Krueger's on line 2, lawsuit, he says.
Yes.
Something like that. And I mean, you get in again. They have a little bit of a prologue. You know, it's the morning after the Parkerectomy. Apparently, Doc likes to sleep with his spider bots. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because everyone needs someone. And it's basically you see how he's how a little more in the inside workings of Otto here, because he's got like the spider bots are constantly roving the city looking for villains, and he's got basically a little who's who of villainy up on the wall there. I mean, you got White Dragon, who's basically like a white supremacist gang leader, Kingpin, Tombstone, the Owl. And I think the last panel where he's talking about how Parker was a reactive fool and I only move when it serves me, and then it's just he's sitting there with some Starbucks and he's just slurp.
Yep, I love that. That's so awesome.
And it's smarter. I mean, again, the motivation is what really sets Otto apart from Peter. I mean, he's being a superior Spider-Man. He's still being a raging dick, but it's just that whole thing. It's just like, I only make a move when I want to. Slurp. Let me have another shot of espresso, because really, and then. I mean, that next thing, it's like a very classic Spider-Man image where he's just springing off the building like that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, okay, he's monologuing to himself. It's like, I will rid the city of crime. I will save you all. And when I read that, just for an instant, I imagined Kevin Conroy saying that line. It's...
As Spider-Man?
I'm not saying he would, just because that seems like a very Batman sort of line.
Yeah.
But I mean, it move forward. We get our recap, and that Stegman, that shot of Otto looking at the reader with that smug look. That's just a really creepy image.
Yeah, it is.
That's like if Stegman had like penciled in like the laughter, because that's a very maniacal laughter moment. And you see where Spidey's heading. He's heading to a gang war between the White Dragon and the Owl, who is, in that one image, he almost looks like Wolverine's dad.
Yeah, he does. That's a little strange.
And then it's like, Spidey's like bonsai, and he gets right in the middle of it, and, he's kicking all manner of thug ass in that thing, and he goes, I love where he almost crushes White Dragon's throat, because White Dragon, he's a dragon, he can breathe fire. And he's like, no, you can't. Your suit can. And considering I just partially crushed your trachea, you might not want to burn away all the oxygen that's in your system. Next time, don't interrupt.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like, I do love, like, I know earlier in this podcast I said that I was kind of losing interest. I do love, like, Ock as Spidey, because he is, even though he did the Parkerectomy and basically purged Peter, he is coming up with his own Spidey-like quips.
Oh yeah, well, it's more like, it's he says it and he means it to be serious, but it's just it's just naturally funny.
Yeah.
Which and that's the thing. The one thing we should mention, like, between issues 9 and issues 10, if you looked online, there are people that were abandoning this series in droves. Like, the whole idea that Peter isn't in the comic anymore. Like, I mean, Peter Parker will be back as Spider-Man eventually. Like, this cannot last forever. And, we've talked about this off air. Like, there's only so many different times you can do a certain story with Peter Parker before you have to do something different. And that's what they're doing here. And when you look at the Peter Parker, it's not that he was a distraction, but it was a little distracting, because you can't really enjoy the story because you're sitting there, well, how is Peter going to get a message out to the real world?
Yeah.
And then
I'm sure at some point they're going to come somehow. Some lingering trace of Peter is still there, but it's like so, like, it's so quiet. Not even you couldn't even hear a mouse, run across. But it's one of those things where I'm sure somehow they're going to come back to it where Ghost Peter is still there. But I when I read issue 10, I was like, awesome. He's
Yeah.
gone. But the thing is, the question is now, between issue 10 and issue 11,
Whenever.
between issue 9 and issue 10, I'm sorry, when I was reading issue 9, I was like, okay, great, he's finally gone. Here in issue 10, I'm like, okay, is Ock going to... Because you have that powerful moment in Amazing 700 where Ock realizes he has to be... Like, he can't just be a supervillain with, a supervillain with Spider-Man's powers. You can't just do that. You if you're going to take on the mantle of Spider-Man, it has to mean something. Holy crap, I just quoted Batman Beyond with Spider-Man. Jesus Christ.
I know what you mean. I know.
It's one of those things where now that there's no technically quote unquote outside influence, what is Octavius going to do? Is he going to continue going down? And I get it. He's right. He is more of a efficient Spider-Man than Parker ever was, because as Ock said it himself, Peter was reactive, and Ock is more
Proactive.
No, not preventative is what I would say. Like he sends out the Spidey bots to as early warning stuff.
He is literally a superior Spider-Man, because, like I said, when we're talking about 90s, like he is doing more than Peter ever did. And it's like I said, not that Peter didn't do stuff. It's just Otto is doing more. And I love, again, the Wolverine comparison continues, because it looks like Wolverine's on the next page.
It really does.
Because that's the whole thing with the owl. He's got like these claws that extend out the sleeves of his coat, and then you see web to the face to the ground. And then you see a little flashback of, when Doc Ock was trying to be a crime lord, and obviously he fought the owl.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yes, I'll enjoy making an example out of you. And you go to the next panel, it's like, holy crap, do you hear that? What's he doing to him? And then all the owl and the owl's minions and the dragon's minions are running away, and they're rescued by, and this is an element that Dan Slott set up early in his run when he became like the main Spidey writer, and they kind of got away from the rotating art cast. That there's this cult of the Goblin operating in New York City and largely probably across the world. They all kind of worship Norman Osborn. And I love that one line, if you want to live, you come with us. And every time I read that, I read it like Arnold in T2. It's like, come with me if you want to live.
Yeah.
So so basically the Goblin crew rescues these minions and take them away, and you see the cops come and take down the dragon and the owl who've been webbed up, and Peter's going to his class, and Mary Jane, hey, we need to talk. And he's like, sorry, earning a doctorate, can't talk, bye.
Toodaloo.
Yeah, this, again.
What the, yeah.
And then she's like, yeah, Toodle, what the? And then he's like, he blew me off?
Yeah.
So now we got the second, kind of naysayer coming down the pike. And I mean, it would be natural that, well, okay, 3 women potentially are going to figure it out that it's Otto in Peter's body. And I didn't realize till now that, Peter's kind of got a thing for the ginger. Because, he's macking on Black Widow at some point. And you got Mary Jane, and, and here's... Sorry?
You got Mary Jane, and then...
Well, you go... See, this is who you asked me about in issue 8. If you haven't read stuff previous to Spider-Man, Captain Watanabe was police, captain who used some captured villain tech and used the identity of a Wraith, who's like this classic Spidey villain, and also the identity of Jean DeWolf, who was a very popular supporting character. She was a Spider-Man supporter in the police back in the 70s before she was killed. And she used this basically in the storyline that exposed Mr. Negative as being a villain. She's taken a leave of absence because Carly figured out who she really was, although she didn't narc on her to the rest of the cops. And you see the wall of blue silence here where the cops are like, he was a crazy gunman. It could have been me that fired the shot. I was distracted and not looking.
Yeah.
And it's basically the cops are... It's just the same sort of thing in previous Marvel comics where cops are questioning about the Punisher killing some guy, where the cops are like, well, he's doing our job for us, and more power to him. And so now you've got, more or less, you've got for sure the three women who are going to be looking into this, Mary Jane, Carly, and, the captain here. And I love what Carly says, the Spider-Man I know would never do that, but there's no way to prove it this time, not without taking down a lot of officers, because the whole, it's basically everyone's treating Spidey killing massacre as a righteous kill. Sorry, garbage is getting picked up outside. The whole idea is like, Carly says, I performed the autopsy. His wrist was shattered. He couldn't hold a gun. So basically she's saying these cops are all talking a whole lot of bull.
Yeah.
And then we get I think this is only the second appearance of
Green Goblin
in the title, and he's taken the Vulture kids and turned them into Goblin imps.
Yeah. My question is, you mentioned earlier that do we know if it's Norman? I mean,
it's assumed, but they had, I forget if it was Spidey or in the last few issues of Amazing where they're at the hospital where Norman Osborn's supposed to be in this coma because in an Avengers story arc, he tried to, resurrect Hammer, which was the organization he ran when he was Nick Fury for a while in Marvel. He tries to resurrect it as a villainous organization with elements of Hydra and AIM, and he becomes a super adaptoid, which is a Marvel android that basically it copies superpowers. It's basically Marvel's Amazo.
I was going to say it's Amazo. Yeah.
And he overloaded on superpowers and went into this coma, and they have this reference where, he woke up out of his coma and escaped out the window. So I'm going to say it's Norman Osborn because really there's really no one else that's run around as the Goblin. Like Harry and his son are, somewhere out in like California, and basically,
Harry has a son?
Yeah, it's basically what happened. He had a kid with the daughter of this guy running for mayor of New York City, and she turned into a Goblin villain. And really, just look up the wiki article. It's so much easier.
Okay.
Just look up the Harry. But yeah, Norman is a grandfather, and clearly he's planning some kind of chicanery. And I love just this really creepy where he's like, hee hee, come my little cherubs. And I was just like, oh God. And whereas I likened Otto to Kevin Conroy earlier, you put Mark Hamill's voice saying that line, and it's just like, oh boy.
And the funny thing is Hamill, the old series, was Hobgoblin.
Indeed.
So, the next page, Peter at school, running late, and just having complete... You said earlier that that Otto, technically, is going to fuck up Horizon. He's not only going to fuck up the stuff at Horizon Labs, he's going to fuck up and not get the doctorate with this Don Lamaze teacher or whatever the hell.
I just call him the schnoz now, because let's face it, you could ski off of that frickin' thing.
I know.
And again, like you said earlier, how, Otto says stuff that's just funny. It's like, I love that Peter's getting up. He's like, excuse me, done. Oh, what, you're done already? Is the blonde's talking to him? He's like, yeah, what you get for 9? The best laugh all morning.
Yeah. But what is going to creep me out in the next couple of pages is set up at this last panel on this page on the left. Free for dinner? I have plans
with Anna, yeah.
Yeah, all right, it's a date. No talking!
Yeah. And then...
But, we'll get to it in a couple of pages, but that sets up... We'll get to it. It sets up something that just creeps me out. It's so wrong.
Oh, yeah. No, I love the next page, and you see the result of the Goblin futzing with the spider bots. He's basically hacked one of the imps says, he's hacked the spider's network. So, because these spiders are like roving scanners for all sorts of villainy. Well, now the Goblin can hack it, and the spiders are blind, and they go in with some pumpkin bombs to attack Mary Jane's club.
Yep.
And then you go to dinner with the family, and it's
I absolutely love these 2 pages.
Yeah, because all of a sudden, it's kind of roles are reversed because how there's Jay, like Jonah's dad's married to Aunt May now, and they're loving life, and Otto's sitting there talking to Aunt May and such like that, and she's like, "Oh, I hope you stay away from that darn Spider-Man." And he's like, "I swear you'll never see the two of us together again." And then you see Jay and Jonah just are arguing about the whole dark path that Otto has taken Spidey on.
Yeah.
And I love that it's like how how Jonah is now a Spidey booster. He's like, he's one of New York's greatest treasures. Son, you can't be serious. Look at what he did to Boomerang, who was going to blackmail the city with the Mather Machine. Or the Vulture, winged menace, terrorizing the skies. And it's like, oh my god, we're in a crazy town banana pants world because Jonah likes Spidey now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Jonah...
Bleeding heart hippie.
Yeah, he's so... It's pardon my French, it's Jonah fucking Jameson. Like, what? I never thought this guy would come around on Spider-Man.
And the funny thing is, I can hear in my head when I read that whole argument.
J.K. Simmons?
I heard J.K. Simmons.
Damn right, man. I'm telling you, that guy, as Conroy is to Batman, Mr. Simmons is to... Yeah. I mean, look, they even brought him back in Ultimate Spidey, the cartoon. He is J. Jonah Jameson. Like,
he
he's
is J.
and Jonah is supposed to show up in the Amazing Spider-Man sequel. I'm praying that they get
J.K. back.
That's kind of like, it's like when they announced Conroy wasn't coming back for Batman Arkham Origins.
But he is working.
He's working on the potential sequel, but I mean that's down.
Well, no, he's working. The one he was working on was something that I believe Rocksteady is doing that has nothing to do with the WB version. Because Warner Brothers, again, oh my God, you can't blame me for this one, JT. Honestly, you can't. Warner Brothers Canada is responsible for Arkham Origins.
Well, yeah, but I know what you're talking about. I mean, quick aside, from what I've read, or at least my understanding is that he is working on something post Arkham Origins, but it's going to possibly take place after Arkham City. Right. So, but it's Kevin Conroy and he's Batman.
Whatever Rocksteady's going to do, whatever Rocksteady's next game, that's the one that he was working on.
Yeah. So we get back to Mary Jane, and texting kills, kids. Because apparently the phones are cut off and no one's getting any bars. And this one, and I don't know this guy. He could be a nice dude, but I'm going to call him a douche. Douche McGee is like, let me go on the terrace. I swear if I have to go a night without texting, you may as well kill me. And then, pumpkin bomb to the face. And you see, basically the... Mary Jane's trying to get everyone out and oh my god, they're blocked, the doors are blocked, and the spider bot's just kind of sitting there not really doing nothing. And we get to the part that Mike has problems with.
Oh boy. Don't get me wrong, love comes in all shapes and sizes, folks. But she is maybe let's say Peter's 5'10", 5'11".
Well, Anna's a little person.
Yeah, she's maybe 4'9", 5'1", somewhere around there.
Well, Peter's got at least a couple of feet on her, so...
Yeah, basically. That's my point here, is this... I hate to put it this way, but the size difference. And it just creeps me the hell out when the two of them kiss. Because you gotta think also, this is a old-ass man. And, it just... Yeah.
I kind of saw this coming, back in Anna's first appearance, where, she's having that tutoring session with Otto, and she cooks him dinner because she's this science chef, and it's just a little heartbreaking where Otto has to go. You see the first direct comparison between Otto and Spidey, where he has to to quote Henry Rollins when he's talking about Batman Beyond, is I gotta go fight the fucking Goblin, He has to excuse himself and as I'll be here when you get back, if you still want to. And you just kind of... It's a little heartbreaking, because, I mean...
It's not... Okay, it's not even the fact that of the size difference, of the height difference between the two of them. It's just... First of all, how old is she?
I'm assuming somewhere around the same age as Peter, or Otto,
So
like
well,
late
no,
20s, early
she's the
30s,
same age
whatever.
as Otto. If Otto's 50 or 60, she's no way in hell
Oh,
she's 50.
Otto and Peter's body, but
Okay, yeah, but so mid-20s, let's say.
yeah.
She doesn't look like she's in her mid-20s. And it's not just because of the fact that she's a little person. She looks like a little girl. Like, her facial features.
Well,
It's
the art.
I know it's the art, but it just... I hope to hell. And I'm not one of these people that will, I'm loving what Dan Slott's doing with the writing, except for that one thing. I hope that doesn't happen again. But it's one of those things where I'm not like these morons on the internet. Oh my God, Dan Slott's ruining Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah. I'm not one of those people. The only time I would ever be one of those people is if DC kills off Nightwing. I will drop DC like a bad habit.
Yeah.
But so we continue here.
And, everyone's trapped in the club. Mary Jane's just kind of sitting there. Peter will rescue us. Peter will rescue us. And then boot to the door.
Yep.
And I love the fact that it's like this guy who just like literally boot fucks the door off the hinges, rescues Mary Jane, and she calls this dude Peter, and he's like, well, actually, I go by Pedro. And you can see I love the way is it Stegman on this one? I think, the artist, how he's just got this Joey from Friends, like how you doing look on his face.
Yeah, he does.
And how'd you know my name? Oh, lucky guess. And then you see where's Spidey been this whole time? Well, he's gone and he's kicked the ass of Tombstone and another gang war, and all these guys are getting beaten within an inch of their lives, and Tombstone's knocked out. And Tombstone's a pretty tough customer in the comics. Like, the guy's basically got Luke Cage skin and super strength, so it's all in a day's work. He's like, I love how the cops even comment. He's trying to be funny. Yeah, just go with it. and then the cops mention he used to be a lot funnier than this. And it keeps going, and you see Spidey takes off.
I miss the notes. I miss the little notes he used to leave.
Yeah, compliments of your superior neighborhood Spider-Man. Which just doesn't have the same ring to it. He's like, oh, fire across town. I rerouted the alert to the fire department. Nightclub in Chelsea. Yeah, not got dealt with. Everyone's good. And Otto's just like, whatever. I gotta stay focused on the big picture. And then you see, I love the ending of this issue, because it is going to set up some major league shit.
It's going to set up some major league shit, but not until whatever the next 2-part issue is. That's one problem I have with... Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, I just love the build-up, because, the Green Goblin hasn't been in Spidey for quite some time, and right. I like how Slott is taking his time and he's building it up, and that last shot of, we're not a gang, we're a family, an empire, and I am your daddy, your god, I am the Goblin King.
Yeah.
And two things. One, I love that establishing shot of the Goblin on his... on the glider with the imps, and you see all the guys he's recruited in the background. But when I read I Am the Goblin King, in my mind, I flipped to that episode of The Simpsons where, was it Aunt Patty took Bart and Lisa to Duff Gardens, and Lisa fell in the water, and she's, I am the Lizard Queen! I just, that's the first thing, but this, again, it's not going to happen for a while, and I would almost put money down that the Goblin is going to be instrumental in bringing Peter back at some point.
Probably.
But, yeah, I just love that, that establishing shot, and again, we got the previews of some of the stuff coming up in the Spideyverse, avenging Daredevil and all that. The one thing that they're doing is the current Avenging Spider-Man is going to become Superior Spider-Man Team-Up, which you get, a preview image, and then you get the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, and it's basically, Boomerang. You see, the Sinister Six that Otto fought in the first issue are kind of making a comeback, and and again, that, what Otto said in the first issue is probably my all-time favorite crack that he's made. Well, I guess they're letting anyone into the Sinister Six now.
Yeah. They also tease Superior Carnage #1.
Yeah, that one I'm kind of looking forward to. How
we will be doing I was going to save this till the end of the podcast, but we will be doing that as a 5-issue,
like a special edition sort of thing.
Special episode thing.
Well, I mean,
I'm really interested to see how, like,
basically right now Carnage is he's brain dead. There was a crossover between Scarlet Spider and Venom where, due to the events of Spider Island, Kane has these spider stingers. It's like these bone skewers that pop out of his wrists, kind of Wolverine style almost, where at the end of it, he basically popped one of his spikes and severed Cletus Cassidy's brainstem, so he's not dead, but he's effectively brain dead. And so the symbiote's just kind of sitting there swimming in his bloodstream. And from what I've read of the previews, Superior Carnage is about these also-ran supervillains who create this Frankenstein-like experiment to resurrect Carnage. Which is...
So am I going to have to read stuff to actually catch up with that?
Just read the wiki article.
That's your answer to everything. Let's move on.
Would you rather me spend 20 minutes explaining it to you?
We've already spent 30 minutes on this issue alone, so let's go ahead and get to the final issue of the day, number 11, after this.
No one touches my comics! They're in order!
Alright, we are back with the final issue, and the cover is Spidey in a web jail.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, omens of ill portent, but looking at this cover, I get more of a bum, bum, bum sort of vibe. Like, and it might be alluding to something. It might just be a cool cover based on what happens in this issue, but...
yeah, I think, honestly, that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just a cool cover. There really isn't...
And I noticed, it's the first part of No Escape, which basically involves, the Spider Slayer is back. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that the artist, Giuseppe Camacoli, is back. He's done a few issues previously, and he's one of the guys that I've really liked on Superior Spider-Man as far as art goes. Mm-hmm. Like, he's got this... his style is... I would say, all his own, is very unique. But, we open in, the Marla Jameson School of Science or whatever at ESU, and Spidey's there studying for his doctorate, and Otto's studying, and he flashes back to when him and, the Schnoz were in school together.
Yeah.
And just the look where Schnoz comes up and he's like, snaps his fingers, "Am I boring you, Mr. Parker?" And just the look of hatred in Otto's face. He's like, "No, Dr. Labaz, I'm going to enjoy ripping you limb from limb."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "This is the price I pay for cheating death, for defeating my greatest enemy. I am trapped in school," basically.
Yeah.
And then, he's talking to Anna, and he's like, "Sorry about last night," and all that. And then, he gets a call from Jameson. And when you said, when we're talking about issue 10, how Otto's going to fuck up the doctorate. Ooh, here's the first step.
Yeah.
Because, his phone goes off, and I love Schnoz. "Was that a cell phone? I demand to know who thinks their social life is more important than the building blocks of creation."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, dude, we get it. You enjoy science. Like, yell at the guy and get on with class. And, Peter just kind of walks out and is like, "You might as well be walking off the campus, buddy." Because I'm pretty sure I never went for a doctorate in my life, but I'm pretty sure something like this pretty well gets you the boot.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. It's, Spidey. And again, they bring back that classic half mask, half face look, which I think is really cool. Because that's a very iconic element of Spider-Man. So yeah, it's got Jonah's like, they're executing the Spider Slayer today. He killed my wife. I want you there to make sure nothing goes wrong. He basically wants Spider-Man to ensure that the Spider Slayer is killed.
Yeah.
And I love when they get to the raft, which is like, the Supermax supervillain prison, and you got, Mr. Shipley, head of security, and he's blah, blah. If you care to review my resume, and I love what Jonas says. "I shredded it in your time here. Shipley, you've presided over a ridiculous number of escapes. All you've done is endanger my constituents. You're lucky I don't have you brought up on charges. and you almost see his shoulders, like Shipley's shoulders, slump.
Yeah.
When he's getting, I was like, you do not want to piss off J. Jonah Jameson. He will fuck your life up.
Yeah.
And then you see like some creepy crawlies crawling onto the thing, which will certainly come into play later. And then you see how, like you in the previous few issues, we've heard of how Otto has fucked some villains up. You haven't really seen the aftermath till now.
Yeah, I got completely lost on this page, honestly. I was like...
Well, yeah, I mean, you see how he, for lack of a better term, speak blue, he fucked them up. I mean, Boomerang's got both his arms broken and he's in traction. He punched the Scorpion's jaw off. He blinded, like, basically burned out Vulture's eyes. And then they walk by the Lizard and Shipley's all like, oh, yeah, he's been a model prisoner. And then you walk up to, Alistair Smythe, the Slayer, and he's got this creepy smile on his face, and, this isn't going to end well.
No.
And how...
This version of Alistair just is creepy as all hell.
Yeah. And then you go to the next page, and how you said Otto's going to fuck up the Doctorate, right. And how I said Peter's he's going to fuck up Horizon. Because he basically insults Max... and that whole scene where he like, dude, I mean, everything he said to Max before this probably would have slid under the table. And then he goes and he pinches Max like, just run along, huh? And then Max goes off on him.
Yeah. And,
it's not going to, like I said, when Peter comes back, he'll be extremely freaking lucky if he even has a job at Horizon anymore. And the whole eating of crow will commence eventually.
Yeah, and then the next page is a splash shot of Spidey, I guess, zip-lining through the city. That's not a regular spider swing.
Yeah, like, he suits up and he's calling the spider bots to the raft. He's swinging like that.
But I love the way that art's done, though.
Yeah.
That page on the left after the confrontation page.
Yeah.
Love how that's done because it almost looks like it's like if Spider-Man came swinging, past my balcony. It looks like a real world. Like, it doesn't look like something you would see in a comic. The way that the clouds are done, the way the sky is done, the way the background is done on him, it's just absolutely great.
Oh no, I love that, and I love the confrontation Otto has with Shipley, where you see that flashback, and he's basically sticking a hose and like blasting. Is like, my God, like, you know what? As much of a dick as Otto has been, everything that happens to Shipley is, he deserves this. Like that's like that scene in Shawshank Redemption where they're blasting with the hose and throwing like the lice powder on him and.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow. And I love what he says. You're a complete and total failure, both as head of security and as a man. Don't bother me again.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you see the Spider-Bots coming into play, and Spider-Man goes to talk to the Slayer, and it's
an interesting confrontation, to say the least, because at this point, and this is where I think it kind of fails Otto, is that, like, he doesn't know. I'm sure he knows of the Spider Slayer, Alistair, but he doesn't have the connection that Peter had.
Yeah.
Like Otto in this whole issue, it's a complete disconnect for him. Like, when I meant to say this earlier, when Jameson called him, he's like, "Sure, I'll be there." Kind of like, "Yeah, LOL, sure." Just kind of like one of those things of, that's kind of cool, and just like somebody saying, "Oh, it's cool," when they don't want to deal with something. This whole issue, I felt that because Otto doesn't have Peter's memories, or because it isn't Peter, that he just doesn't. He's just like, okay, sure, we'll stop the villain, but he doesn't care, and you can see that in the confrontation with Alistair, because he walks away from him. He's like, Alistair's like, "Don't walk away from me," blah blah blah.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Whatever, forget you." And I love the confrontation in the next page between Smythe's lawyer and Jonah, and he's like, where Jonah during Spider Island basically became a man spider and took a bite out of Alistair, and how he uses, well, the mayor wasn't in his right mind, neither was my client, with a brain full of cybernetics and suffering from depression, blah blah blah. And I love Jonah. He just holds up the hand. This has all been litigated. You lost. I'm gonna watch. He talks about how he's going to enjoy watching the scum who murdered my wife die, blah, blah, blah. And I love the threat he gives to the lawyer. If you try to get me removed or do one more thing to delay these proceedings, you will find out precisely how many ways I can perfectly legally make your life hell.
Yeah.
And you could almost see, like, the puddle of pee.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then, Alistair's like, oh, don't fight on my account.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the whole thing, I'm a changed man. I've given my life to God. I am confident that I will be saved. Like, if he wasn't this creepy as fuck supervillain, I'd almost be laughing.
See, the thing is with this version of Alistair, the only other version I know is the 94 cartoon series, both pre and post mutation change.
Yeah.
And when the Kingpin, was it the Kingpin or Norman? One of them changed him into a robot, robot alien bug looking thing.
Yeah, with
even then he was sympathetic. Here, I find no sympathy for him whatsoever.
No, I mean, but for years, Alistair Smythe has been this, creepy as all hell, daddy issues, obsessed with Spider-Man, gonna kill you dead, sort of thing, and then you see the creepy crawlies that arrived on the island earlier, his, like, Slayer bots, or, Slayer bites, whatever they're called, and it armors them up, and a bunch of them are, you see in the next page, Otto's coming, he's prepared all sorts of contingencies. And he takes the fight to the Slayer. And
yep.
I love, over the next couple of pages, he's reinforced the walls, he's set up laser grids, he's cut off every possible avenue of escape for the Slayer.
And the Slayer is like, how can you possibly know this? I've been here for months or years or whatever it is. And what they don't realize is, again, I mentioned earlier where I think that Otto has a disconnect to this whole situation and doesn't feel right. It feels right here where he has a connection to the raft. I almost called it the river. Yeah. The raft, where that's where he was for the longest time. So he's going to know. Like, you would expect him as Spider-Man to know all of the escape plans and everything else so he can counteract them without... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then you see... the next page after that, where he's like, oh, I have a plan too. And you see a bunch of these, like, cyber bugs have gone after, Scorpion, Vulture, and Boomerang, and basically, which could be a very horror movie-like moment, where they're crawling all over the villains' bodies, and they basically, like, burrow into the Vulture's eyes and rebuild the Scorpion's jaw. And it's basically, Smythe has set this up where he recreates these guys after a fashion and basically gives them one command: kill Spider-Man and everyone else in the prison.
Yeah, that was my plan all along, to kill Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how the powers and the tech works in the next issue, obviously. I mean, just looking at that final kind of splash page, you see the Vulture's got, he's basically got the suit from Spectacular Spider-Man now, with the red and black like that. And the tech. And Boomerang looks like some... I don't know, that just looks weird with these giant boomerangs growing off his forearms. I mean, the only one that really looks like not laughable is the Scorpion, who, kind of looks creepy as all hell. The whole, and then talking about Smythe from the 90s series, you almost get that vibe off of here with the whole kind of techno-organic kind of look to the Scorpion, whereas before, when Smythe originally rebuilt Mac Gargan, he just basically looked like this dude in this huge cyber suit.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, we get the issues for next time around, Superior Spider-Man number 12, Daredevil 27, Hawkeye number 11, Scarlet Wolverine number 20, Scarlet Spider number
crossover.
20. Yeah,
Venom, Morbius,
and Avenging. I like that cover on Avenging.
Well, yeah, I just picked that up a couple of days ago, and that issue. Let's put it this way: when the Punisher tells you to chill, you know something's wrong.
Yeah,
but
pretty much.
And like I said, like Avenging, I'll mention now, like the Chameleon storyline is also there's this separate storyline running with Otto in the Avenging Spider-Man title where he's capturing, or he basically goes onto the SHIELD helicarrier in this storyline to break the Chameleon out, while at the same time these Russian super soldiers are coming to kill this Chameleon for what he knows about Russian state secrets, and it's leading towards like Otto is rebuilding the Sinister Six with probably some albeit heroic purpose, but at the same time it's Otto, and it's going to be, it's not going to end well.
It's going to be strange. The heroic six.
The superior six.
The superiors. There you go. I bet you that's what they're going to do.
I do imagine when that happens, and he probably go up against Boomerang 6, I imagine him leaning into or looming over those guys and going, "This is what a 6 should look like."
Yeah.
Because as much as I enjoy the lineup of Boomerang's crew, and there's I don't knock them. I mean, they're not the Sinister Six, but I enjoyed what I saw in their appearance there. There is only one. It's like the lineup of the Sinister Six should be, Dr. Octopus, Mysterio, Chameleon, Rhino, Sandman, like that. That's kind of like having the big 7 in Justice League. It should be Superman, Batman, Martian Manhunter, and all that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's looking forward to the next one, because that cover for Superior Spider-Man 12, with the 3 villains coming after Otto like that, it's like, ooh, we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have some real fun. So we're gonna take a very quick ad break, and then we're gonna come back with final thoughts and other things, and we'll be back after this. I can't talk now.
Coming to Grand Rapids, Michigan on September 21st and 22nd is GrandCon Gaming and Comics Convention, presented by Celebration Cinemas. Join us in playing or chatting it up with fellow enthusiasts in a community that understands your passions. Get lost in the adventure of your favorite role-playing game. Admire costumes and art from vendors and attendees. Meet the creators behind your favorite mainstream and independent games and comic books. Check out unpublished games and sneak peek at things to come. You can get all this and more at GrandCon. For more information, please visit www.grand-con.com.
These superheroes uploading funny clips, and I'm just sitting here procrastinating. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, he just opened a tuna can. What? I'm out of work. Door wants a handshake. Sounds legit. Wait a second. There's no candy in here, you liar. No, Beryl, I insist. After you. I wonder why my pillow has a boner. Wow, they are totally doing it in there. I make pancakes this big. This is bullshit. You can't ground Spider-Man. The floor is lava. It's Friday. Friday. Gotta get down on Friday. This is me giving a f***. Hold a sec. How do I shoot web? Holy f***, I am high. Next comes off the bra. Hey. Flying mustaches. What the f*** is this shit? My body is ready. Shit's frozen. Oh, my arachnids. And then there's this asshole. Oh, f*** you, Narnia. Honey, pimps don't fall in love. Oh, Smokey the Bear is gonna strangle me. Look at all the f***s I don't give. They're just falling from the sky. I forgot to pay the bills. Soon, I'll be a beautiful butterfly. I forgot to get down on Friday. am I reading? You do realize that my arms are still free. They see me rolling. They hate me. Here are your options. 1, you, I'm Spider-Man.
We are back, and I'm still interested to see what's going to happen with Superior Spider-Man. I think in the future, I can't be for certain we would do this, but we may record the segments as we've read the issues. That way we can have more of a gut read. Because honestly, like I said before, I tried to go back and read 8 to 11, or 8, 9, and 10 a second time, and I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Okay, I'll just look at the pretty art. Yay.
Pretty lights.
Yeah, because as I said, I hadn't read, before this recording, I hadn't read 11 because I knew I wanted to wait until. So I think in the future, JT and I might record the individual 4 segments as the issues come out. Yeah. That way it's more raw. It's a rare
glimpse behind the production of a show.
Yes, there you go. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up briefly?
Just looking forward to that next issue. And if people aren't aware of the series or you haven't checked it out, I really just want to recommend watching Ultimate Spidey. Like, I've talked to Mike off air, and that first season of Ultimate Spider-Man was kind of hard to, it was a little bit of a chore to get through, but the current season I've really been digging, and I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of the animation or the humor or the fact that Drake Bell is voicing Spider-Man, stuff like that. But it's a solid series, and I really can't say enough. I highly recommend that to any Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, I would watch the second season, but it's not on Netflix yet. So,
damn you, Netflix!
I know. So. All right, that's going to do it for us here in the Pull Bag. Next week, Ender is going to join me, and we are going to be talking about Rage of the Dinobots. We will catch you then, only on the Pull Bag from Geekcast Radio Network. See you, folks.
Bye.
You just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, GCRN's comic book review podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you were leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can send us an email, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @GeekCastRadio. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.